You're tuning into The Josh Bernstein Show, where liberalism is a mental disorder. And Josh is the cure.
Breaking tonight, a new bombshell in the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email scandal. The State Department now says it cannot find any of the emails from the Clinton staffer responsible for setting up the infamous private server. None of them. Joining me now, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Anna Napolitano. All right, so I don't know if this is a bombshell. Is this a bombshell?
It's something that causes it closer and closer to a perfect storm for Mrs. Clinton. There's a lot of moving parts. Last week, her 5 closest aides were interviewed by the Department of Justice and the FBI. One of them reportedly said, I don't remember. Red flag to the FBI. Next week, Mrs. Clinton will be interviewed by the FBI, even though she told all kinds of reporters over the weekend, I've never heard from them. Of course, she never heard from them. Her lawyer has heard from them. Next week, her closest aides will be giving a deposition, an examination under oath outside of the courtroom on the whereabouts of emails. Now we find out tonight that the most significant of her staffers, the guy she paid $5,000 to commit a felony, to migrate her secret emails from a government server to a non-secure personal server. Her IT specialist, they can't find his emails. And at the same time, we learned there's a debate going on in the Kremlin between the foreign ministry and the intelligence services about whether or not they should release the 20,000 of Mrs. Clinton's emails that they have hacked into and received and stored. All of this is happening at once.
Welcome to another hard-hitting edition of The Josh Bernstein Show. The Josh Bernstein Show starts where the rest of the media ends. On today's program, we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to talk about the latest on Hillary Clinton and what's going on with Guccifer and Brian Pagliano and Cheryl Mills and some of the other things, including her admitting guilt. And I will go through that here in just a minute. Then a little bit later, we're going to talk about Hillary's vice presidential pick, who I believe is going to be Julian Castro. This is a Marxist, separatist revolutionary, raised to be that from a very young child, along with his twin brother, Joaquin. So we'll talk about that. We will be exposing that and a lot of information on that, so you don't want to miss that segment. And then a little bit later on in the program, we're going to be joined once again by Dan Weber, the founder of the Association of Mature American Citizens, AMAC for short, which I am proud to be an official spokesman for. And there's a great event that's going on next Monday that I will actually be attending myself as well. And so we're going to talk to him about this amazing event that's coming up. But first, before we get into all that real quick, last night, obviously, Nebraska, West Virginia, obviously Trump trounced it. We knew that he would. There's only one person left. I know there was some rumors about Ted Cruz restarting his campaign if he won something, but that's not going to happen. At least I don't think it's going to happen. So the latest is 1,120 delegates for Trump. He's a little over 100, about 110, 115 away from the 1237, but no need to really break that down and go into that. So first thing that I want to talk about is obviously starting the show. You saw the video with Megyn Kelly and Judge Napolitano. And in that video, you can clearly see that coming from a legal standpoint, Judge Napolitano certainly believes that there was criminal intent, there was gross negligence, and that she should be arrested. She should be thrown in prison for what she has done. Now, will she see a prison cell? More than likely, no, she won't, unfortunately. So that's the sad part about it, because we have a Justice Department that is going to protect her because she's a Democrat, and we have Barack Obama who's going to pardon her if she even was indicted, because again, him being a Democrat as well. And I think more than anything else, the Clintons have a lot on the Obamas and vice versa, so they're going to be protecting each other all the way to the end. And that's another reason why Trump needs to win, because Trump's Justice Department will go after Hillary Clinton and maybe even, hopefully, Barack Obama for all the crimes that they have committed. So what's the latest? Well, the latest is that right now in the investigation, we just had Cheryl Mills, her former chief of staff, testify. It was a testifying. There was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of non-answers that were going on. And at one point, she even got up and left and walked out her attorney and her walked out, then they came back in. So she may be a hostile witness, although they're not calling her that. But I think that the writing was on the wall. They asked her some questions that apparently they didn't approve of beforehand. And so we'll see what happens with that. We know that we've got Brian Pagliano's testimony coming up. This is the former IT personnel person that set up her server illegally outside of the confines of the State Department. But now, miraculously, the State Department has somehow lost all of his emails. Gee, they just disappeared coincidentally when he was getting ready to testify. There's so much shenanigans going on behind the scenes here, folks. It's ridiculous. There's also been word that the Kremlin, Putin and the Kremlin, have 20,000 emails, as you saw in the video clip, and they are wondering whether or not to release them. Now, we also know that Guccifer, the Romanian hacker, was brought over to America. And believe me, folks, he wasn't brought over to America to do some sightseeing, look at the Grand Canyon or the Statue of Liberty. He was there to give testimony. He has said, point blank, that he has hacked her server. He said that he's done it at least twice. And he said that when he did hack the server, he found at least another 10 IP, Internet Protocol addresses in that server when he hacked it. Now, if you remember, Hillary Clinton in many interviews, as a matter of fact, one in particular was from last year, said that nobody hacked her server. There was no sensitive information or top secret information taken or stolen from her server. Well, we know now that that's not the case. And the reason it's not the case is because Hillary Clinton herself has now been tripped up and has admitted to the fact that she has this server, this off-premise server, in her basement at her residence in New York. And she did an interview on September 27th, 2015, an interview with NBC's Chuck Todd. Clinton said, quote, "The server was already there. It had been there for years. It was set up by Bill after he left the White House. We had it set up in our basement. This is the exact server that the FBI knows was unencrypted or not encrypted, and this is the one that they have found sensitive material and top secret information on." So she slipped up in this interview back in September of 2015 and admitted that the server was set up and was set up off-premise, and it was set up more than likely by Brian Pagliano, who was her IT director for her campaign in 2008, and then she paid him, the Clintons paid him to do work at the Clinton Foundation and also to set up their off-premise server in her house in New York. So there you go. And that's why Pagliano now cannot plead the fifth as he did in the Benghazi testimony. He no longer can plead the fifth because he broke a rule, which is to have a server set up outside of the State Department and then not disclose it on the State Department financial forms that the Clintons paid him off the table and under the table and off the record, if you will, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do private IT work for them. Well, he never disclosed that on the State Department financial disclosure forms. That is a felony. And that's why he's now has to testify. He no longer can plead the fifth because of that. And we'll see what happens. We'll see how much he testifies and how much information we can get from that. But this is a self-admittance from Hillary Clinton of her guilt, that she knew that she had the unprotected server. Now, I looked for a video. I was going to show a video clip of that, but I can't find it anywhere. It's not on YouTube. I found a 16-minute clip that was done on NBC News, but it wasn't a YouTube clip. And unfortunately, I don't have the ability with the videography work and things like that. We do a lot of great stuff on the show, but I can't take those types of videos and upload them to the show to show you. So you'll just have to trust me on the fact that that video is out there. You can look for it. NBC, Chuck Todd, Hillary Clinton talking about how her server was already set up. Now, under federal law, it is a crime not only to steal sensitive, top secret government information, but also it is a crime to take that information, whether it is intentionally or not, and use it outside of the confines of what you're allowed to use it with, which would have been the State Department. Well, that's known as gross negligence. So a lot of people say, well, there's no intent here, and you have to have intent to convict. Well, that may be true. And again, I even interviewed F. Lee Bailey, the famous defense attorney for O.J. Simpson last year, and he said, Josh, they have to have intent. Well, Andrew Napolitano actually says different. They're both great legal minds. But Andrew Napolitano Judge Napolitano says that gross negligence is just as serious as intent. So if that is the case, and the FBI does go after her for gross negligence, that is punishable by 10 years in prison. Now, again, we know what the Justice Department is. We know what Barack Obama would do if there was an indictment. If anything, this thing keeps going on and on and on. That would be the best thing, because obviously it would damage her chances in November. But here's the thing that worries me is that the investigations are happening now. Cheryl Mills, Pagliano, Hillary Clinton, I think in the next coming weeks, maybe Sidney Blumenthal, Guccifer, who knows. The thing that worries me about having these things now is that they're trying to wrap up this case. Now, to me, if they're trying to wrap up the case now, again, I don't have a crystal ball here, but I would say that more than likely, maybe they're looking for a way not to indict her. And I hate to say that because I want to see Hillary Clinton get indicted here, but I also want to see Hillary Clinton get indicted in October, 2 weeks before the election. I don't want to see her get indicted now, because then they have time to replace her with somebody else. But more importantly, I think, and again, I don't know for sure, and I hope I'm wrong on this one, folks, I truly do, but the fact that they're trying to wrap up the investigation now, I think they're putting pressure on the FBI. Who knows, maybe the Obama administration threatened their families. Maybe the witnesses have been threatened by the Clintons. We know people that have testified against the Clintons are no longer alive to talk about it. We know that the threats that the Clintons have done. So it is certainly possible that they're trying to get this behind them so that they can concentrate on the general election, and they want to go in the general election not under indictment to try to steal this election from Donald Trump. So I don't know. That's just maybe my conspiratorial thoughts coming out, but I hope there is an indictment. We'll see what happens. One other thing before we end this segment. Last year, a federal judge told Hillary Clinton and her associates at the State Department to preserve and or recuperate all emails and communications from the time this started last year till now, until the trial is over. When we know now that Hillary Clinton and the campaign are in direct violation of that judge's order. And how do we know that? Well, it's very simple. Her campaign, it has now come to light that the Clinton campaign has made a $184 payment to a American Document Destruction Incorporated in Colorado, Denver, Colorado, in both February and March of 2016, just a few months ago. Now, this company specializes in, quote, destroying hard drives. Let me repeat that. This American Document Destruction Company, that her campaign, there are proof of her campaign, there are receipts from her campaign to American Document Destruction Incorporated in Colorado that she paid to, quote, have documents and hard drives destroyed. Now, from their own website, from this company's own website, quote, our hard drive destruction can take place at your site or at ours. Either way, we always get the job done. So she is in direct violation if she destroyed any information from her State Department. Now, granted, this could have been stuff from her campaign or what have you, but it doesn't make sense. Why destroy drivers? Why are you going to destroy drivers from your own personal website or something having to do with your campaign? It doesn't add up, folks. So again, I believe she's in direct violation. Now, if Barack Obama, the weasel that he is, wasn't the president, and the Justice Department with the hit woman Loretta Lynch protecting Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton would be looking good in orange right about now for what she has done. Knowingly falsifying State Department forms, which she did, that's 3 to 7 years in prison. Keeping sensitive material after leaving the State Department and then lying about it on her financial disclosure forms and on her exit interview, that's 3 to 7 years. Giving sensitive material to her attorney, who is not credentialed to accept that type of information, 7 to 14 years. Storing top secret sensitive information on an unprotected server, anywhere between 10 to 20 years. Stealing top secret information, 10 to 20 years. Gross negligence, 10 years. Bottom line is this: if Barack Obama wasn't president and Loretta Lynch wouldn't block any indictment, this woman would literally be looking at a minimum of 7 to 75 years in prison. But because she's Hillary Clinton, more than likely, she's going to get away with this. And that truly is the sad part. The fact that there is a national person, a national nominee for the Democratic Party that is running for president under FBI federal investigation goes to show you the moral value, lack thereof, of the Democrat Party, the soullessness, the disgusting scruples of Democrats in America in the year 2016. It is unbelievable to think. If this was a Republican, they would have been run out, they would have been forced to end their campaign months ago. We never would have even gotten to Iowa, okay? But the fact is that it's coming from the unscrupulous, moralist, devalued left, and they could care less. They look at it as a badge of honor being under federal indictment. Truly sad. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
You're tuning into the Josh Bernstein Show, where Josh covers the news the way the liberal media would not dare.
Hey, Josh Bernstein here. If you like that segment, please tune in to the full show at starworldwidenetworks.com. Again, starworldwidenetworks.com. Look for the Josh Bernstein Show, or you can also find me on YouTube. I appreciate you guys watching.